Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am Carl. I will be talking about this. I think we might be on with the streaming as well.
Yes, we are.
Super. And you'll tell me if I can't be heard in this. I've been doing LARP scenography since 2014, with Livsgäld being the first Swedish little gender-bent LARP. And I've also worked with some film scenography and graphic design in film. Film mostly makes me a bit bitter because it's so passive art. I want people to engage in the scenography and so on. Hopefully I can share some things which are meaningful to other people as well. And to start off, I am bad at delegating at LARPs in teams and so on, so I gravitate towards smaller projects and defining smaller projects and so on. But where I can somehow picture that this is something I could do on myself, on my own, even if it's a big castle. Like, oh, maybe if I carry and so on. So, yeah. And so, why do we want scenography? There are different points to it. You want a fuller experience of a setting or a story. It can boost your immersion to be in something more tangible or visually. It's great for pictures and promotion. It can offer more ways to interact with the story if there are things that you can do instead of saying that you will do the thing and so on. It can lessen pretending. Things are what they are, and you can intuitively agree on what an object is instead of representing. Is this supposed to be plastic or metal, or is it magical, or is it moving, or is it a dead object, and so on. Sometimes it can help, sometimes it can be more confusing, maybe. And it is beautiful and fun in itself. But mostly I think I want you to be present. If it can help you be in this moment right here instead of thinking about something else, and to make it make the setting relevant, like remind you that this is what we're doing instead of making a story about students and so on, but you're in a perfect cool location of a bunker but you're not using it as a bunker. It's like if the story and the location works together, it's great. But there are different ways to make you present. You can feel very present at a rock concert of like, I am here in the now, I am very aware of everything that's happening because we have great sound and pyrotechnics and so on. But you can also be very present in a room at night when you're trying to sleep and there's one mosquito. So there are different things that can make you aware of what you're doing. Start with the theme or aspect of the LARP that is central. What do you want to say and do and explore and so on? It's not just an aesthetic, but it's a feeling or a social dynamic, a philosophy, a play style and so on. And what emotions do you want the players to feel? Is it a game about paranoia or connecting with individuals, oppressing each other, or trying to understand the lives of real historical people in a slice of life environment? Saying it's a war LARP. What does that say, really? It can be everything from writing letters in the sickbed to crawling in mud or airsoft reenactment. So you need to be more specific within your core group and team and to players as well. Sometimes it can help to question, if this was a film, what director would have done it? Is it Greta Gerwig or Michael Bay? And you need to agree on that vision within the team. The earlier you agree on this, the less meetings you will have to have. If it takes you 5 years to agree on what you're doing, or you agreed after the LARP that you knew what you were doing, it can save time to find the questions that nail down your idea early on. Yes, no, I'm trying to learn to keep it short. It's not, yeah. And try to not distract from this theme. Don't add random spice into something. Because, oh, it would be cool to have a pyro explosion here. But it's like it's a normal school LARP. Does this add something? Or like, Why did you put the Nazis in? And so on. It's cool and edgy. Like, we can explore those things, but then make it central and interesting. To us, or in general, it starts with a location. Maybe it's a location you need or a location you have. We have been fortunate and clever to use the locations we have instead of trying to like shoehorn in something into a location which is not made for. So maybe we went to a place like, this would be great for a school LARP, and then we're like, it's not a school, it's something else. Let's make something else here instead, and then we change around to see what a location is best used for. And this will also save you a lot of energy instead of trying to squeeze something into something else. Like making something in a forest, coming from fantasy LARP and so on. Like, we want a village, we have a forest, then we need to make houses. Will probably be tents, maybe only 2. So it's like, you're changing your vision a lot. And maybe it's much more fun or interesting to make a story about 2 tents in the forest if you're smuggling refugees over the border in 1942 or something like that, or Legion, and it's like, use what you have and make that interesting. So I'll have 2 larger case studies of LARPs we've done. One is where we used a location and mostly used it as it is and as it looks today. And this can be both good and tricky. Like in film, you can build one building from several different locations and studio settings. But now you need everything in one house you find already if you want it to be one house. So that's harder to find. We did a scouting trip going around and like searching for different locations and schools or mansions and so on for 1913 upstairs downstairs LARP. Looked at 8 different ones and then didn't find anyone there, and then found another one at a different point. So it can take time and so on. You can find stuff on Airbnb sometimes, but be clear what you need, what you want, and what would break that deal. Like, oh, it's an opposite Lidl. I don't want that. Be clear on what you need and what you don't want. So for this location, it's this LARP, Club Inferno. It's an Android's universe LARP about exploitation, survival, desperation, yearning for freedom, and making a choice. It is a LARP about humanity and what it means to be human in the end. So it's a spin-off from our Blade Runner franchise. And this had been one part of a bigger location. It's one club, and now we wanted to make a LARP about just that club. And so we thought, then we can make that much larger than just 2 pieces of scaffolding in a corner of a bigger room. So what do we do then? Do we build the whole club, or do we find the club? So we wanted this, to not build everything from scratch for once in this world, and it would be nice to have a functional bar. Because carrying stuff and dishwashing and so on is annoying. So we ended up running it in a BDSM club, which is, if we did not reveal where it was, whose it was, or like how it was run, we didn't. All the pictures we took had to go through the board, and they had to accept them. But the board consists of 2 LARPers as well. So, so if you know, yeah, don't spread it, especially since it's in this city. Huh? And we got there, and it's like a basement, old protection, like bunker, but rebuilt, and classical BDSM of like dark and red and black and that style. So we wanted to change something about it because we knew some people would at least come back and have been in both scenes. So we wanted to change some things. So instead of like directing the people the usual way, like coming in through a long corridor, and then there's an extra fire escape that you can come back to, like the wardrobe, we closed the corridor and had everyone walk in the back way instead to just change the way around. And instead of having all the like middle doors open, so it's one big open area, we closed them so that it was more of a maze, and you could come back and find a half room there and like close off a room to make it a bit more maze-like and different. So just changing the flow of how people moved in it did a lot to them. We changed the lighting, much dimmer, and changed like where the spots were instead of having the usual areas of focus. We made the dance floor much smaller. We split the main room in two. That was part of the maze part. We tried to make the rooms more interesting as well, to add more things which are interactable and so on, and more specific to the location. Like sometimes you just want, it doesn't matter if it's really cool for this location, just as long as you feel someone made this for this LARP. Yeah, I'm here because of the LARP, and it can be many different ways of thinking about that. And we made two, like the main club was one part, and then we used a part of the actual club to make outside the club. So there was an alleyway and a police station, so you could go down, and it was a part of like, parts already had like bricks on the wall, and it felt slightly outside. And we had a small flat, which was everyone's flat, so you could go there with your hookup or deal drugs and so on. And then you rotate, so it's someone else's flat and so on. I built some things to change the aesthetics of it. So they are like reusable, like garbage bins, but from cardboard. You buy and you just throw them away afterwards. That's one of them, covered in wallpaper and with some foam board. And with a lamp inside of that, put up into the ceiling, it creates more of a like brutalistic, like the ceiling coming down as a big lamp, creating that nice grid. And I found like big lamps or lanterns on a like garden shop, which I just put a circle of some diffusion and LEDs in, creating wonderful cyberpunk lamps. And this is like 2 meters long, cut from styrofoam with a heat thing I built. And this is acrylic etched, so the same. Yes. So, and then we added like a printed, very expensive bar signs on there. I have another picture of that, I think. And the lamps coming down. Because I like room, and especially at the other Android LARPs, it's like, it's a city. We're like wanting to have the skyscrapers, but it's like this. And I was used to wanting like that, and coming into this like basement, it was more low, and I was annoyed with that, and like, okay, can we change that around? Can I use it instead? Can we use the feeling of the ceiling annoying me, maybe by making it come down and be active in the room instead? And it creates perfect little zones to gather around. Yeah, the sign and some tubes with just LED running through it. It did look more like sticks and not the fake parts on the side with some tape on it. It can be very simple, like electrical tubes, just zip tied onto some boards. Yeah, archway, the outside, and that on top of their bar. And to create more of a, I don't know, fancy or designed look, I tried to use more bold shapes and larger intentional shapes. So this is the cheapest IKEA lamp I could find with foam board just heat glued onto it, some kind of brutalist thinking there, and some symmetry and so on. And I thought it would take very little work, since we already had a club. We could just move in and start working and like doing the LARP. But that's not how the brain works, because now we have a club, we can do so much more. So it required a lot of building and renting and so on still. Much less, but still much more than intended. So one other case is a constructed one in a black box. So this is for the game, or it's good for a control freak to have a black box. Then you can just add what you want, and you don't have to like cover ugly heaters or windows and so on. You just add what you want. So this is Lotka Valterra Acheron. Lotka Valterra was a big bunker game, and this time we did, or like this game was also a spin-off from that. We took one of the rooms or zones or groups and made a LARP just about that. So, Task Force Keres, a group of volunteer veterans of Haven's best surf ops, which is surface operations, like cool team, are embarking on a secretive and highly dangerous mission on the alien-controlled surface of Earth. They are not you. You are the nervous coffee drinkers, the pixel pushers, the data analysis, and noise listeners in a tiny underground bunker far away, moving them around like chess pieces on a board. So we are making like the central of people sitting underground and controlling NPCs outside of the game. So no one is playing the cool spot team thingy, you're just playing the people communicating with them. So we wanted a Cold War bunker, since this was set in like East Germany in mod-ish future, but still in old locations. We knew where it was run in-game or like in the real world and so on. So we had maps which worked and were real and so on. But I wanted that Cold War just sprinkle on top of it. A practical and interactive power system. So they were in this. If there was a threat, you could actually like turn off all the electricity and make an EMP like feeling situation or something, like not having the electrical signal being visible to you, to the aliens. And some claustrophobia and hopelessness and dirt and so on. And I like the juxtaposition of a warm, clean black room standing in for a cold, dirty bunker. So that would be fun to play with. This was first time I think or second time I used 3D designing to build this, and it turned out almost exactly like this. Only the tables turned to a circle instead. So I borrowed some old military bunk beds from a film sonography friend, and we built pillars and borrowed tables from a military association I'm part of, and built a doorway. And so the idea is only the walls are fake or invisible. Everything else is there and 360. You walk on the floor that looks like it is, and the pieces inside of the walls are all what they are, just invisible walls. So some different things we built for this was the floor, which was just like hard building construction paper, which we painted with, just splotch and like spray painted it and so on. We built the pillars and covered them in fake concrete of like plaster and sawdust and things, and weathered them. We put in electricity, so you had lighting on the pillars, which you can turn off and on. We had one pillar of some concrete where you could also like write on and so on. We had the fake door with red lights up here, mostly to have something to walk through. But they also put up like plastic zipper door there. And all the electricity was working and went through like one central place here. So you could like, and everything dies. I built these computer monitors, which just are computer screens inside of them, which are stackable and nice because it's military and should be clever. And they were different stations. So one would take like communications with the soldiers on the ground. One would check the radio like frequency of threats you hear, and so on, and coordinates. And they had to like play a game of working together. And they have the pictures and live like heartbeats and so on of the team. So they had a picture of like this person is not doing well. You see their pulse and build relationships to these people. And this one is a small just rig for having dust fall onto people when there was a big threat moving over ground. So I was standing with this next to it, like, and it pushes down some dirt on you. And yeah, so all the electricity in the middle and all very dark, and all the lighting was diegetic and in-game. You had to go there, switch it off, pull out the cassette player when things were happening and so on. And then turn on electrical lights instead. Rail candles to lay puzzle and be in lockdown mode, kind of. And an old politician from East Germany, Erich Honecker. All right, so those were two examples. Finding the look. This is for your own sake and for the team's sake. Gather lots of pictures and make mood boards and so on. You know this. You can work with colors. For example, Adobe has Adobe Color Wheel, which I think is just open on the websites, and there are other similar ones where you can pick one color and it gives you some examples of like matching colors, and you can have like different like complementary or triads and so on, so which helps you like build a sense of what colors work together instead of just randomly putting in all the different disco lights if you don't want that. So for Lord of Lies, which was 1950s sex cult commune dysfunctional thingy, I wanted beige and green and yellow, so I put up all the tiles were covered in plastic to match the green and yellow, and so in the kitchen. And the clothes as well of the characters, with a costume guide of, I would like you to wear these colors to fit in and to create a more like brainwashed communion feeling where everyone is wearing kind of the same. And same for Forbidden History, where we want more of the like Ivy League, Dark Academia style with warm colors and so on. So you need to also communicate your scenography. Joanna Koljonen wrote, I think, in a book or it was a podcast, I can't remember. We thought 360 illusion would give us the best immersion and then moved on with other ideals because we had tried like sewing our underwear and so on, the Swedish context. And we moved on from that towards meta techniques and calibration breaks and so on because it didn't give us really what we wanted. I think what might have been missing there was to tell the players why, or what are you supposed to experience while wearing hand-worn underwear, hand-sewn underwear. So to just say like what you want, we want you to feel this while you're peeling potatoes, and why is it important for the game, and not just do it. But if you're doing it, you get into a slower mind space and you talk while doing something, or you get a feel for that the work you're doing is important and then connected to something, and so on. So you need to educate your players and give them the reason and the meaning behind this. You need to sell it, just like selling handmade crafts. Like, why should I buy this knitted scarf? And it's like, because this and this and this, and this is important and nice. Now you value it more. Now you see things you didn't see before. We also did this in a way for 1913 again, like showed people at the workshops. This is what we're inspired by. This is what we hope that you will play, like, and hope that you will see during the game. And this is taken through a glass window, so it's all natural, and to me a lovely like oil painting effect. And to just be primed, like this is the scenography you will see, and maybe you will see it beautifully in this way, will add more to the experience, I think. Environments as characters. Can we apply the same ideas to characters to environments? For example, what affordances do they have? Like, what do I offer? What can you do in this environment? Does it have any verbs included in them that you can do, and so on? How do we play it up? We play the king, just as we play the environment. at the school, you are not allowed to run. You are not allowed to do this and that. You keep decorum and style, or like manners, because that builds a school or builds a character. And many of our players have said that it feels like we're visiting this character, this school of St. Theodora's. So how can we apply this? What have I written? We don't want to create events for customers, we want to create living worlds. So this was something we realized when we ran the same school LARP, where Wonder LARP we worked with, where they were like, oh, you don't need to pour the wine, like the staff can do it for you. But we're playing administrators as NPCs. Surely we work at the school and we would pour the wine. Like, we are in the game, part of it, and so on. And I can see that sometimes it would maybe be easier to play it, or like we build a cool experience for the players, but we want to have that internal logic. Which also means that we will probably not rig a cool scene for you, but instead make sure that you as a character has the responsibility to rig that event in the game. For example, when we have secret societies at the game, we're not like, and now it's ready, you can come in, everything is prepped, and we'll do something cool for you. It's more like, it will be there. You can show up whenever you want to. Someone of you might have to be responsible and like light the candles, make it meaningful to you, build the relationships that it means, the responsibilities, put on the ancient music on a cassette player because it's 1980s and you're historical nerds, and so on. If you want to hear more about light, I think you should go to the next program item with building with light, which is the next moment, I think. But light, we've run a couple of LARPs where we only had candlelight for 3 days. And it's not only like, oh, it's pretty. No, it changes the whole time of day, and you stop LARPing earlier in the evening, and you might get up early in the morning, so it changes everything, which is interesting in itself. And you can open or turn on a room by having a servant go in and like, now this room is open and working, instead of sitting there in the dark, like it's weird that it's dark, like use it.
Artificial or real candlelight?
Whenever we can, we use real. Okay. Several hundred candles or something for a game. So it's not for every LARP, but it can definitely work. I will, let's see. Yeah, these are choices. An open room versus split up rooms. This is an open room, even more so the big downstairs can create like a theater stage, a gym hall, and it can be very empty and undecorated, or it can be decorated walls like more castle or museum, or you can split them up into like undecorated small rooms, prison office, or decorated small rooms like a nice cafe or an old antique shop or something. So just thinking of different rooms and what they offer in terms of feeling seen, or like evening out all the groups so like everyone can speak to everyone. This also caters to like 5 people scenes, while this might be like 30 people scenes. And it does something to who feels comfortable speaking in groups and so on. Questions and design choices and so on. I will skip this. Yeah, use things you already have a relationship to. That's one way idea why I think school LARPs are used a lot, because we already know what it's like going to school. So we know all these relationships that are built to the character of a school, and so on. I like putting in-game toilet paper at historical LARPs, because then the scenography follows you when you thought you were having an off-game break. No, everything is in-game. Your character is going to the bathroom, as characters do, like people. This is something we've explored more and more, using old tech, because it also changes your view on the world. If you play our 1980s, like Forbidden History or Fragment of a Novel, and you're playing 20-year-olds, and you listen to music on Spotify, having like an endless like 80s hits, something in a room party, that is slightly different to having 3 mixtapes with 8 songs or something on each, and repeating those and having a relationship to those songs and like, oh, that's my tape, or I bring it, or like turning it over again, and it goes turns off when it ends, so someone has to go there and switch it. It creates a it creates a bond to a relationship to the music instead of like, oh, another one, and you just filter it out. And same with cameras. We've been harder now on Forbidden History as well to have analog cameras. If you as a player bring a camera, we want it to be analog or Polaroid. So it's something which only happens in-game and is limited. So you don't go there and like, and then you sort the pictures afterwards and like, oh, I took 300 pictures, but 5 are nice. No, we want every picture to be something you consider. Want you to stand there and like, oh, light meter, maybe this, stand still, and like, will this work? Nah, it's not an interesting picture. Like, be in the moment of it and use that, and not think about, is this cool for afterwards? Like, no, be in the LARP and the realization of what is happening there and then. And also Polaroids, you can just use them in game for different things. Same with a video camera. I used a video camera to tape from a LARP, from Forbidden History, which has been super cool, I think. Make the low status fun and the boring meaningful or beautiful. For servants, we have lots of servants at a few of our historical LARPs. And we don't want to make an upper class game where you also have some servants doing some cool, less cool stuff in the basement for you. So we've made them as working class LARPs, which also requires some family. And we've wanted to integrate this, so you can do most of the tasks. In the morning at 7 or something, we have the maids coming out with washing basins for you in the rooms, so that you have something to wash from, and we can clean your room a little bit and get access to that. And it's also, I put all the energy into the servants part of the scenography part, LARP. So making a beautiful kitchen and labels to everything and the food and so on. What is efficient scenography? Darkness. The less you see, the less is off game. So even as a player to some games, I bring light bulbs. I bring old like yellowish, so I just unscrew a hotel room and put in a new one. And even brought lamps as a player, like a table side lamp. And create rooms within rooms, make it smaller. Shape the movement patterns, as I mentioned. Add printed materials, always nice. Work with sound. Yes, yeah. And does it support the vision or do something else out here? Be intentional. I think this is super efficient. This is the mosquito. Instead of like putting up posters and everything on all the walls, you bring a tablecloth, a candle, and a deck of cards. And you gather around the table, and it's about the meeting, and you see each other's faces, and everything around you blocks out because of darkness. So you make natural spots for meetings and gathering. There's a lot of information at games. And if it's possible to bring it into the game, that's wonderful, I think. So for the school LARP, for example, we've made yearbooks with all the names and characters in them, and the maps and schedules at the back, and so on. And we also put names on all the rooms, and the names also connect to some of the legacy students. So this is a rich-ass character, his family supported or had this room built, so it's his name on the room and so on. So it's connected everything. And the crests as well that everyone has, color-coded for what year you are, and so on, which goes into the same color as the professors and so on. To try to build a system which is still kind of in-game and not too meta, but you can always sit with this one in-game. So we don't have name tags for 120 players, but we have this instead. So you sit there and you're like, oh, that character is, or that player, no. That student in this class was a bit annoying and so on. And you still wouldn't know all the 120 players at university. Then we have like how much the faculty have worked, what year they started, if you want to just check that in the teacher's room. How to make a table for the servants, the family portraits in the parlor, so you can watch like, oh, beautiful pictures. Very good that I know that that person is called that, and so on. So try to just include as much as possible. You can do a lot with graphic design. I will not go into this. I have some things here if you want to look at like songbooks and so on later. Play with paper. More of that. 1700s things I made. And some final practical tips. Whenever I scout a location, I try to find the evacuation plans and take a picture of that. And then make an in-game map out of that information. So you have both for working with and planning, but also for the game. So you can put different characters in different rooms if you're playing the butler or and so on. So the more information you can make as an in-game information form, it's great. Scout well. Take lots of pictures of everything so you can go home and then make decisions. Get a big truck. Be aware of what you think is fun and what you need to continue organizing. If this is not fun for you, maybe you should rethink what you think is fun and find something which is fun instead within, hopefully, that field. And yes, 1 minute to go. Does anyone have a question? Will you go out with a microphone as well? Super.
So how's your experience with giving participants the opportunity to create their own personal space, the scenography, the items to put in there, also group rooms that maybe the players group or the characters group are a part of?
For Forbidden History, the school LARP, we encourage people to bring things for their own rooms, because we have lots of rooms which are just hotel rooms and we can't do things in them. But I say, like, bring a lamp, bring posters, bring things to make it feel more in-game. But whatever you do is like up to you, and take that away. And I think the default would be if they try to get your things from the game afterwards before it ends up in Lost and Found or gets lost. So we're open on that, but we're not the kind of LARP where it's like bring your own camp. We usually bring everything except we usually supply everything except costumes-ish.
All right. So you were mentioning that you can use, for example, Airbnb or like rent a house or stuff like that as a location. What do you usually communicate, or how do you communicate with the owner of that location beforehand?
It can be different. Like for the sex cult LARP, trying to be a satanical sex cult, that's a yoga studio. And she is hyped about that. She's like, whoa, you're doing a satanic sex cult. Wow, so interesting. I haven't really thought about LARP before, but aren't we all playing characters anyway in social life? I'm like, you get this. So that is no problem at all. And for another one where we play fragments of a novel, this small spin-off, she's equally just interested and like, oh, cool, you're doing this. It's a bit weird, but we talk to them and so on. So it hasn't really been a problem for us. One more? No? I will run off to, with the video as well, to the next room and do one on photography with Julia. And I have some things here if you want to come up and have a quick look and feel on paper and so on. Otherwise, thank you.